Hello, my name is Heather Yu, and today I will be presenting my case study, Rising Superbugs, Candida auris, a case study. First identified in 2009, Candida auris is a dangerous hospital-acquired drug-resistant fungus spreading across the globe and landing in the United States in New York, New Jersey, and Illinois. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has stated that 90% of C. auris infections are resistant to one or more drugs, while 30% are resistant to two or more. However, there have been cases resistant to all known treatments. Recent cases have revealed that secrecy and dangers associated with the emerging health threat of drug-resistant bacterial and fungal infections. First, we will cover the case facts studied in this case study. In January of 2019, Stephanie Spohr, age 64, received the news that she had contracted the rare and highly dangerous fungal infection C. auris while undergoing lupus treatment in Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. This diagnosis prevented her from qualifying for a lung transplant she needed due to her lungs' inability to absorb oxygen associated with her lupus. The fungal infection was attributed to the insertion of an infected catheter, a common mode of transmission for the hospital-acquired infection. The fungal spore is notably dangerous because of its ability to spread through the air, stick to surfaces, and avoid disinfection methods, including specialized cleaning devices. Ms. Spohr, like other patients with C. auris infections, had a weakened immune system that allowed the fungus to perpetrate her bloodstream and ultimately take her life on February 11, 2019. Ms. Spohr is one of nearly 600 reported cases of C. auris in the United States and 158 cases in Illinois alone. Nearly 50% of Chicago long-term care facility residents have tested positive for the infection, and the numbers are growing day by day. According to the CDC, almost half of those diagnosed with C. auris infections will die within the 90-day time frame, which was the case for Ms. Spohr. The cost of drug-resistant infections in the United States continues to increase, with 2 million contracting these infections and 162,000 estimated to die from them annually. It is no surprise that the financial cost of resistant fungal infections alone was over $7.2 billion in 2017. Specific to this case study, Candida infections alone cost $1.4 billion annually to our economy. Next, we will cover the epidemiological aspects of the case. The specific infection case of Ms. Spohr was a retrospective observational case study, as the main article detailing her illness was written after her passing from details mainly given from the family. The information given was supplemented with observational data from other C. auris and other drug-resistant infectious cases. Potential sources of bias lie mainly in the second-hand accounting of the experience from loved ones close to the infected patient. The authors attempted to address this by reaching out to the hospital and healthcare providers for raw data and first-person professional accounts. However, the hospital declined involvement. This secrecy revolving around the presence of drug-resistant microbes is a repetitive response seen in similar studies. Next, we will go over the hospital's management of this specific case. The public health response to Ms. Spohr's specific infection initially was isolation and the use of an extracorporeal membrane oxygenation machine to aid in her breathing as she awaited approval for her lung transplantation. Simultaneously, treatment using a drug cocktail that had previously been effective against this specific strain in Northwestern Memorial was implemented with little success. Nurses and hospital employees were instructed to implement contact precautions while interacting with the infected patients, limiting visitors and cross-contamination by constantly disinfecting surfaces, both inside the room and on their person. It is unclear if these precautions were effective in preventing spread to other patients, as the hospital has not released any statements to the public. Specific management precautions taken after Ms. Spohr's passing are not detailed in the article. However, with similar articles of C. auris cases, we can deduce the extreme level of cleaning and care the hospital undertook to disinfect the room. It is likely that special cleaning equipment was utilized with extremely strong chemicals, along with the replacement of some items in the room to eradicate the fungus. I believe that in eradicating the fungus and preventing the further spread of patients, that the hospital was likely very effective in management. Absent preparation for such an infection include the lack of pre-admission screening for infected patients or carriers who do not show symptoms to the hospital for C. aureus to isolate patients bringing the fungus in to stop the spread at the source. Additionally, the use of fast screening tests which yield results within an hour may have aided in earlier detection of the fungus, preventing the microbe from entering spore's bloodstream. The isolation of the patient was a great decision from a public health standpoint. It is unclear, however, whether this response was due to the patient's infection status or just coincidental. Next, we will cover the hospital's communication of the event to the public. In events surrounding drug-resistant infections, hospitals are eerily resistant to comment on their infection status, case numbers, or even progress with eradicating the threat due to fear of public backlash, citing not want to cause public panic as a reason for not disclosing outbreaks. This is the exact response seen with Northwestern Memorial Hospital regarding Ms. Spore's case, as they were not inclined to answer questions regarding her specific case, even after being granted permission from her family. I believe the secrecy surrounding bacterial and fungal outbreaks in hospitals is poor management of communications between healthcare facilities, organizations, and the public, as it can have devastating results for the patients who may not need to be exposed, like those undergoing elective surgeries. Additionally, regarding C. aureus, the CDC has listed it as an urgent threat, often referred to as the top threat in resistant pathogens. This description just exemplifies the dangers of this specific infection, and thus a prospective patient's right to know whether they face the possibility of contracting it via a certain hospital. I believe the communication aspect of bacterial and fungal infections are so poorly managed due to a financial fear proposed by the hospitals. The infection and untimely death of Ms. Spore demonstrates the growing threat of drug-resistant infections in the public health field. To combat similar losses in the future, it is imperative that we invest in research methods for testing and treatment of new surveillance and antibacterial antifungal drugs. Finally, communication between the public and healthcare facilities and organizations must improve if we are to protect patients from infection and promote awareness of these threats. Finally, I felt the need to include a memorial slide for Stephanie Spore, as she was a beloved teacher and mother of four. Hopefully, with advanced research methods into antimicrobial infections, we can prevent similar deaths.